What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. And today, Matthew had class, so Matt's not here to help me today, but very special guest all the way out from Nebraska. We got 2023 All-American Liam Cronin. Liam, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Derek.
Of
Appreciate it.
course, man. Usually there's two of us. Like I said, Matthew has class, so sad you don't get to meet him, but gonna hop right into it right now. We kind of want to know who got you into the sport, who created Liam Cronin.
All right. Well, it was 11 years ago. So I started wrestling my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
And I had a neighbor. His name's Luke McDonald. He wrestled at Cal Poly. And he wrestled at my high school in California. And he got me into wrestling. So when I was younger, weirdly enough, I hated to sweat. And I played baseball my whole life leading up to high school. And so my dad kind of gave me this ultimatum was, hey, you're either gonna have a job or play a sport. And so I knew I wasn't big enough to play football, wasn't fast enough to run track. I hated to sweat and be out in the summer heat playing baseball, so I didn't want to do that. So my buddy Luke, he got me into wrestling. That's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. So obviously you started a lot later than most people. We hear,
Yeah.
from the ton of guys we talk to, they kind of started at 5, 6 years old. So do you think there was a hard transition for you to kind of get at that elite level joining the sport so late?
Yeah, I think it was kind of, there's some positive and negatives to it. I didn't have the burnout factor, right, of wrestling my whole life as a young kid. It was new to me. It was really hard at first. I was undersized. I probably weighed 83 pounds my freshman year, and I got beat up a lot. So
Wrestling 106, yeah.
we only had two guys at my weight class. We had a varsity kid, and then I was a JV. And so they sent me to a lot of varsity events. I wasn't traveling with the team one, is what we called it. So I think I probably went 0 and 30 my freshman year, and I hated it. I was getting pinned. I'd put legs in on top. People would pin me from top. I was getting cradled, and it wasn't very fun for me. But my dad made me stick with it. I think he saw something in me that I didn't see. I was a hard worker, so I think he kind of knew that I was going to be able to do something. I never envisioned, or my parents never envisioned me wrestling at the D1 level. That wasn't something that I saw myself doing. But I think after my freshman year, that summer, I saw a lot of growth. I had two of the best coaches that I've been around, Tony Okada and Alan Clinton, which really helped me jump levels. So, they had a big play in the person I was going to be and the athlete I was going to be.
Yeah, and I think, as of recently, we saw a clip of you wrestling in high school from the California State Tournament, kind of got posted around a little bit in the wrestling world. So talk a little bit about after, obviously, your sophomore year, and you end up, going to states and placing the next, 3 years. What was that kind of like for you?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I saw some growth. I finally was like 100 pounds, 106 pounds. So I was starting to grow into the weight class. I didn't have to cut any weight still. That sophomore year, I was on varsity. I had a pretty good record, but I didn't qualify for state. I didn't even make it to the Masters meet, which is the tournament before state. I think I took sixth place at CIF, so I fell short. Later that summer, after my sophomore year, I wrestled in all the freestyle events. I did junior duels. I wrestled freestyle and Greco at Fargo, and I took second in freestyle, and I took third in Greco. So that was like my big jump was that summer after my sophomore year. I started to get much better. And then going into my junior year is like where stuff started to take off. I was working out, doing a lot of extra stuff. I think the freestyle and Greco really helped me out. And also my high school coach was a judo Olympian. So I had been doing judo those first 4 years of high school, which really helped my wrestling. And that's probably played a lot into my style in college. I'm a big upper body guy, a lot of underhooks. So yeah,
Yeah.
that junior year of high school, I took second at state. I lost to Kate Olivas, who's a really tough wrestler. Um, and then that summer, I just still stuck with Greco and freestyle. And then my senior year, I took second at state again, and that's where you see that viral video of me getting headlocked, put to my back, and pinned in the state finals. And so that was kind of my high school career.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, California is no slouch state. We see a ton of studs come out of California as of late, especially. Um, So how do you think, in your opinion, where do you think California ranks among the other states for wrestling?
Man, back when I was in high school, we had both Valencias. We had Aaron Pico, we had Kate Levis. Isaiah Martinez is from there. So during my era of wrestling, I think it was near the top for sure, top three. Now I think it's changed a little bit. I don't really keep up with high school wrestling as much as I used to, but I think it being a one division state tournament, I think it's pretty tough. It ranks in the top three or four. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's for sure up there.
I agree 100%. I think 3 or 4 is a very good spot for California because especially as of late we've seen some good guys come out of California. So, what was your recruiting process like? You were able to capture a second place at Fargo, and let me just say Fargo has been, I would say, out of every person we talked to, that Fargo is like that one tournament where everybody had a breakout. That was when
Yeah,
they started like really realizing that there was a future in the sport, was people placing at Fargo. So how was the recruiting process like after, placing at Fargo and then, getting 2 state runner-ups in California? And how did you end up in Nebraska?
yeah. Um, I wasn't like a top sought out recruit. I wasn't ever ranked number one. I think the highest I ever got was second at 106 pounds. So I was a little guy. Not a lot of Division 1 programs looking for a 106 pounder. So I knew my senior year, if I wanted to wrestle the Division 1 level, I had to go 113. So I wrestled 113 my senior year. I started to get a lot of notices from the smaller D1 programs like Bakersfield, Cal Poly, Air Force was looking at me a bit, and I didn't see any Big Ten schools until after my state tournament when I took second place my senior year. And I really wanted to wrestle Big Ten, and I knew it was gonna be hard, right? I was a little undersized. I wasn't a 125 pounder yet. I didn't have the accolades that a lot of Big Ten schools are looking for. So I think if I can remember, I took a visit to Indiana, Minnesota, and those were like my two schools that I could get into at the Big Ten level. And it came down to the weather factor between Minnesota and Indiana, right? The offer they were going to give me was about the same. I knew when I went to Minnesota, I showed up in sandals and shorts, and it was freezing. It was probably like April. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. I'm a Cali boy, right? Wearing my sandals, shorts all year round. So um, I fell in love with the staff at Indiana. They had Dwayne Goldman, Nick Simmons. He was a good lightweight coach. So I think that's kind of what drew me to Bloomington, Indiana at first, right? They had great weather when I showed up. The coaches were great. I liked the team, and so I ended up picking Indiana.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you start in Indiana, and obviously now you became a Nebraska Cornhusker. So what was that kind of transition like from California to Indiana to Nebraska?
So at first, going to Indiana, it was kind of hard being away from my family for the first year, but I got used to it. I got used to the weather, the Midwest lifestyle, and I've kind of fallen in love with it. I kind of prefer that over California a bit now, as I've been in the Midwest for 7 years. But after transitioning from Indiana to Nebraska, it was very similar, weather similar. Um, you know, I love I love my team. My coaches are great. The culture is great. So it was a pretty easy transition for me going to Nebraska.
100%. And we talked, to Brock Hardy. We've talked to Ridge Lovett. So we know that the brotherhood down in Nebraska is, second to none. You guys are a good group of individuals that really, are together. So talk a little bit about the team this year. I think this is probably one of the better Nebraska teams that have been put together. So talk a little bit about the relationship that you guys have built and how, that team aspect has been going for you guys.
Yeah, so I think, like you said, the most important part of our team has been the brotherhood and the culture we have. We're more than friends, we're more than teammates. We're really like brothers. Um, this year we had some young guys in the lineup who showed up and showed out, like Brock Hardy and Silas and Lenny Pinto. I think me and Mikey were the only seniors besides and Kel Davis at heavyweight. We're the only seniors that are leaving. So, it's going to be really exciting to see what that team does next year. A lot of
Yeah.
young guys.
Like when you think about it, you see a guy like Allred, Big Ten champ. You see Brock Hardy, and then obviously Lenny as well. Lenny had some incredible moments. I think
Yeah.
he's like a walking highlight reel.
He
Like
is. He's
he had some
so
of the
amazing.
most like hype wrestling clips this year. Like the
Hmm.
mat return against the kid from Northwestern might have been like the clip of the year. Just
Yeah.
incredible. Kid is. We talked to Brock Hardy, and he described Lenny as a golden retriever, and then second time around, he described him as a wagyu steak. Don't know how he got to those two things, but it was an interesting way to describe him. But we talked to Silas too. Forgot
Yeah.
about him, but we did talk to Silas as well, and just a good group of dudes. You guys have been awesome to kind of get to talk to and everything, and talk a little bit about the coaching staff. Obviously you have some pretty legendary guys in that room with you guys. So talk a little bit about that and how you think that's helped you guys get to the level you're at.
Yeah. So obviously we have Mark Manning and Brian Snyder, who coached one of the greatest wrestlers in American history, if not the best, Jordan Burroughs. So, those are high level coaches. They bring a lot to our team. We also have Robert Kokesh, who's an All American here in Nebraska. And then the addition of Tervel Delognev last year played a huge part in our team, just developing the culture, bringing world class technique to us. I think we have one of the best coaching staffs in the nation for sure. They balance themselves out really well. We have Manning, who's super into the match. He gets excited, right? And then we have Terrell, who's really relaxed and calm, and we have Coach Schneider, who's in the middle. So, you know, I think their personalities balance each other out really well, and they're able to bring something to the team that creates great culture, team success, right? So, it's just they're great.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime we've seen like a video posted by Nebraska, it always seems like Manning's right in the mix with you guys at practice. He's scrapping with you guys. So I think
Is.
that's awesome for, he's not a super young coach either. So I think it's awesome to see him get on the mat and roll with you guys still.
Yeah, he's got a lot of energy for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. So talk a little bit about this year's national tournament, man. You get yourself a fifth place finish. Obviously, I'm sure not where you wanted to, but you get yourself an All-American status, which is still solidifying yourself, as a top guy in Nebraska's history. So talk a little bit about nationals this year and what you thought about it.
Yeah, so kind of a little bit of my mindset approaching this season in the tournament was, I hadn't been an All-American yet. I had qualified for the national tournament twice before, and I just fell short, that first time. So going into that tournament, that kind of weighed in the back of my mind was, hey, I haven't done it before, right? So I've been to the tournament, but I haven't been on the podium yet. So really what I was focused on was just being courageous, bringing my best effort and energy to each match, right? It's kind of what I did all year, which helped me be successful. I wasn't really focused on the end result, right? My goal was to be a national champion and I fell short, but that's not what I was looking towards. I didn't enter the tournament thinking, okay, I'm gonna be a national champ. It was take it one match at a time. I got to focus on my controllables, right? My effort, my attitude, my energy, and it all worked out for me. I could have been on the other side, right? I could have fell short, but I'm super grateful and I'm just grateful for the opportunity and I really enjoyed the tournament, right? Had some great matches, fell short in the semis, but I'm pretty happy with what happened.
100%. I mean, how could you not be? I'm sure like you said, I'm sure your parents, when they got you into the sport freshman year, were thinking, okay, like he's gonna wrestle through high school, and that might be it for him, or maybe he lands at like a small D1 or a D2 school. But I'm sure your parents and your support system were incredibly proud of you, getting on the podium this year.
For sure. They were. Yeah, they were
100%.
excited.
And just to touch a little bit about your support system, I now believe that if you go and you wrestle at Nebraska, you are going to get married. I
Yeah.
don't think I have ever seen a group of wrestlers on one team that are all married. Like
Yes.
you're married, Brock's married, Silas is married. Brock said, I mean, Peyton's basically married. He
Yeah,
no
he's
wedding,
basically
but he's basically married.
yeah.
Like I have never seen so many college guys get married. So what do you think kind of that aspect is for you, and what that decision was like to not just bring your girlfriend along to your dual meets, but bring your wife along with you?
Yeah, I think if anything, it matured me as a man, right? I'm not only taking care of myself and focus on myself, I have a wife, right? So it brought maturity, definitely brought discipline to myself and my wife, and just being able to bring her along the journey. She supported me throughout my whole career, right? We were friends at Indiana before we started dating, before we got married. So she's been a part of my collegiate career for 6 years. So she's been through the ups and downs. She weighs my losses and wins just as much as I do. So, to bring her along and to have her there in the moment at nationals when I All American was really special.
I bet 100%. We've heard that from everybody that we've talked to that's married. Is it's like when you become married, it's like your losses are your wife's losses. So it's
Yeah.
like she feels them just as much, if not a little bit more than you do. I'm sure
Yeah.
she might get a little emotional sometimes during
Yes.
during some
And she
meets and
comes,
nationals and stuff.
yeah, she comes from a wrestling family, so she knows all about wrestling.
That's
So
awesome. That's I think that's awesome too, is that she has like a ton of knowledge about the sport and everything.
does. Yeah.
I'm sure her family supports you as well.
Yeah, they do. They're great. So, it was a fun ride.
I think that, yeah. So obviously, like you said, a fun ride. What is next for Liam Cronin? What do we see next year? Will we see you on a mat in a cage? Are you kind of just going to step away from combat sports and kind of take your life on and get a job with your obviously an awesome degree you got in Nebraska?
Yep.
So talk a little bit about what's in the future for you.
Yeah, so I think after nationals, I had a lot of time to think. I was either going to go MMA route, continue wrestling, or go coaching. So, I'm still kind of young. I'm 25. So there's still a lot of opportunities I can do, or a lot of opportunities I have. But for now, I'm going to stay at Nebraska for this upcoming year. And I'm going to help coach and help the lightweights out and probably compete. I'm getting that itch to compete again, right? It's
So
only
are
been,
you registered for the Open?
I am not. No, I
Okay.
won't. You won't see me at the Open, but you'll probably
Next
see me
year's an Olympic year, so
for sure.
yeah, obviously, I think that would be awesome. Super exciting to see you. It's anyone's game. When it comes down to it, there's a lot of people that have shocked the world and have, had crazy upset victories and stuff like that at team trials. And who knows, maybe you mess around and find yourself on an Olympic team next year. That would be
All right,
exciting, man.
that would be great. But for now, I'm enjoying coaching, helping out the guys, being in the room. I love my team. We're like one big family. So, I thought I'd just be right to stay and help them out.
Yeah, I think that's awesome as well because you're obviously, like you said, you're going to give them a lot of guidance outside of just wrestling. You obviously married life and all that stuff. You could definitely give them some tips and tricks on some relationships and maybe some hardships that they're going through. I'm sure you'd be able to help them out in that aspect as well.
For sure.
Definitely. So we're kind of going to hop into some questions here now. Some will be wrestling related, some will not be. Number one, we've had a ton of awesome responses to this one. What is your favorite wrestling shoe that you have ever worn throughout your whole career? What is one shoe that you were like, this is a good shoe?
Dang. I think you're going to take me all the way back to high school. The Nike Freaks. I think my senior year they got reintroduced and they were making a bunch of them. So I went and bought them from Wrestling Mart. That's got to be my favorite shoe. Now I've been at two Adidas schools since I've been in college, so I haven't gotten to wear them
Combat Speeds.
at speeds. But I was a Nike freak, dude, for sure.
And they just stopped making freaks this year. This is the last year that freaks are being made. So that's sad. They were like a staple shoe though. 100%. You're right. I remember when they came out, it was like everybody had a pair of freaks and
Everyone had a pair.
they
They were
were
hype.
they were awesome. Good shoe too. Next one is, what is your go-to walkout song? And then what is your go-to pump-up song? You're getting headphones are on, you're getting warmed up for a match. What are both of those?
Oh man. So my walkout song this year was Fifth Gear by Andre Nicotina. Not a well-known artist. He's a Bay Area guy from California. That was my walkout song this year. And my warm-up music, I usually start with country and I end with rap. So
Ooh,
I like to go
it's a good
slow.
mix.
Yeah, I'll start slow. Let's say I'm 3 matches out. I'm in the hole. I start with country. 2 minutes out, the last period, I'm ending on rap.
It's a good mix. It's a good mix of Nebraska and California. I feel like
Yeah.
they're very much intertwined there, and that I can see that kind of your personality is a very mix of like, I've been in Nebraska for the last 5 6 years,
Yeah.
but I'm from California, so
Yeah. I got to
it's
rep both.
definitely, yeah, definitely a little good mix there. So next question for you. Now, were you a guy that had to do some weight cuts, or were you kind of just walk around at or like 130 ish and kind of stay in a good spot?
Fortunately enough, I was super disciplined with my weight, my diet, my lifestyle. So I think the heaviest I would get, like on a Monday after competing during the weekend, I could get to 35. And then usually I didn't have any trouble cutting weight. I did a
Yeah.
lot of water loading early on. on the weeks. So it was usually just water weight coming off, but I wasn't a big weight cutter
It's good.
at all.
So, that being said, what was your go-to post weigh-in meal? You step off the scale at weigh-ins. What are you eating after?
Oh, blueberries, raspberries, half a peanut butter sandwich with honey on it, and a stinger with 2 bottles
Wow.
of water every
Let me
time.
just say that might be to the T of like 5 or 6 other wrestlers that have told us, I mean, exactly what you just said. Like
Yeah,
peanut butter, honey, stinger waffle, blueberries, weirdly blueberries. Everybody's, I guess it's just a good choice, I guess. But
yeah,
every
easy to
every
digest.
every wrestler has been big blueberry fans. And I think that's kind of funny that like these are all big time D1 All Americans and everybody, like I said, at least 6 wrestlers have said exactly what you just said to the T. So that's pretty funny. I guess
Yeah,
if you wanna be a D1 All American, you gotta after your weigh-ins start eating exactly what these guys are doing because it's working.
exactly.
So, like you said, you follow a strict diet, but what's like one meal it's a good cheat meal? What's your go-to cheat meal?
If I could have the perfect cheat meal, it'd be In and Out. I got
In
a
and
double
out.
double, animal fries, vanilla shake, all the way.
Do you miss In and Out?
I do. Whenever I go to California or Colorado, I stop at In and Out.
You have to.
I have.
It's a must, I guess, if you're a West Coast guy.
Oh
So
yeah.
another question for you here. Who, in your opinion, now that your college career is said and done, was your toughest opponent you've ever competed against?
Man, I mean, obviously you can say Spencer Lee is one of the toughest opponents I've ever had. Um, I don't know. Being in the Big Ten every weekend, I have a tough match. But
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the biggest matches of my career this year was Brandon Courtney because in high school he used to beat me up. I mean, he was a neighboring state in Arizona, so we would see each other at Fargo. My team would go to Peoria, and I'd wrestle him in RBY. Usually, my last 2 years I did. So, man, just getting a win over Courtney, that was huge for me because he had always beaten me up, right? And so I think I saw a lot of growth in myself as an athlete and as a person, being able to compete against him and finally get a win because he's a tough opponent, right? NCAA finalist, I think 3-time All American. So I mean, besides him, it'd be Spencer Lee, right? He's one of the greatest wrestlers ever. So he was tough. He was a tough nut to crack.
You kind of have to give it I mean both of those guys are super elite
Oh
level
yeah, they're elite.
athletes. You can't say either of those names I think are both very fitting for the 125-pound weight class. So,
Yeah.
next question here for you. What was your favorite venue that you ever wrestled at through your whole college career? What was that one venue where you're like, wow, this is actually really nice and it went well for you?
Um, I mean, I think the most electric venue I've wrestled at is the Hawkeyes. I know I don't like Iowa, but they have a great atmosphere. But other than that, I think the best I've competed in the most electric environment was Rutgers 2020 Big Tens.
Yeah.
And
That place was
also,
packed.
yeah,
It was
and also
packed.
I gotta say, Devaney is rocking every weekend. We have a duel. We have great fans. I mean, there's no place I'd rather compete in front of. But Rutgers Big Tens was that was fun.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah. We haven't had many people say that, but I think I like that answer. I could see it being super, super loud, super electric because the state of New Jersey loves wrestling. And that's
they
a
do.
border state to New York and Pennsylvania, which are also huge wrestling states. So I
Mhm.
could see that place probably, I think it was sold out, I'm sure.
Yeah, and
It was,
everyone was like the mat was
mhm,
here, and people were eye level, and
mhm.
it was fun for
Yeah,
sure.
that was definitely a really cool venue. I'd be happy to see it come back to Rutgers Big Tens eventually, which it
Yeah.
will. It's in the cycle, right? It cycles through, so
Yep.
they'll come back to it eventually. But that was a super cool tournament. I forgot about that Big Ten
Yeah, it was
tournament
long
there.
ago.
That
The
was a
COVID.
yeah that was gonna say 3 years ago now. That's like that yeah that was a good Big Tens there definitely. So this one might cause some controversy in the Nebraska wrestling room. Just want to put that out there now. Who is your favorite practice partner? One guy out of the room. You can only pick one. You got to take with you. Let's just say you got to take him with you to wrestle to warm you up at World Team Trials next year. Who's that one guy you're grabbing that like, man, he gives me the best warm up?
Brock Hardy's gonna hate me because that's my dude, my number one partner. But I'd say Kyle Berwick. He's been there He's one of the most selfless human beings I've been around. He was our 33 pounder last year, transferred from Wisconsin. But man, I got to take that dude. He's a hard worker. He's a great partner, a great friend. He was so selfless this year. He helped me a lot. One of the big reasons I was on the podium, but I have to go with Kyle Berwick. I'm
Shout out
sorry,
to
Brock.
him. It's our, it's all is fair in love and war, man. All is fair in love
Yeah,
and
very
war.
true.
Definitely. But, I'll ask you the question. We've asked this question about 170 times now. This is a good closer for you. You could take three. This one might cause some controversy too. You could take three of your Nebraska Cornhusker teammates with you into the zombie apocalypse, and you have to survive. Who would those three people be and why?
Oh man. So can I include a coach on this? Or is
No,
it
just your teammates. Just your teammates.
dang. So I gotta take Mikey Labriola as one because he's crazy. I know he'll destroy a bunch of zombies for me. Um, who else do I got in here? I'll take Brock Hardy. He's a smart guy, right? I need his intelligence. And I think the third person, I'm gonna take Lenny Pinto because he's such a light-hearted human being. He makes every situation positive. He's just a great dude.
Yeah.
So I need that mental factor to stay sane.
Brock Hardy took Lenny Pinto, but that was because that would be the one person he'd choose to eat. Out of the entire team, he said that I would rather eat Lenny Pinto out of anybody. So
I would agree. He's got a lot of meat on him, I guess.
I guess that was
Strong human
that was
being.
that was when Brock called him a Wagyu steak. He's like,
Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with that.
it was super like one of the funniest things we've ever had somebody say on that. Like we've never had somebody bring somebody with them just for the fact that we're gonna eat this guy.
And
I
that's
was
Brock.
like,
He's a smart guy. That's why I'm
yeah,
bringing him.
that's a good idea, man. Well, we're excited to see what the future holds for you, man. We're excited to see you maybe, make an Olympic team next year. Definitely take some time and relax a little bit. And I think you'll
Yeah,
definitely enjoy coaching. Maybe one day we'll see you in a head coach position at a big university.
you might. That would be great. You know what, Derek? I really appreciate it. Thanks for
Of
bringing me
course.
on.
Of course, man. It's been another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. We'll see you guys later.